Chapter 29. Expressions of Love for Krishna. Part 1. There are some bodily symptoms which express overwhelming ecstatic love. They are counted at 31 as follows: disappointment, lamentation, humility, guilt, fatigue, intoxication, pride, doubt, apprehension, intense emotion, madness, forgetfulness, disease, confusion, death, laziness, inertness, bashfulness, concealment, remembering, argumentativeness, anxiety, thoughtfulness, endurance, happiness, eagerness, haughtiness, envy, impudence, dizziness, and alertness. Disappointment. When one is forced to act in a way which is forbidden, or to refrain from acting in a way which is proper, he becomes regretful and thinks himself dishonored. At that time, there is a sense of disappointment. In this kind of disappointment, one becomes full of anxiety, sheds tears, changes bodily color, feels humility, and breathes heavily. When Krishna, in punishing the Kaliya serpent, appeared to have drowned himself in the poisonous water of the Yamuna, Nanda Maharaj addressed Yasoda Devi thusly, quote, "My dear wife, Krishna has gone deep into the water, and so there was no longer any need to maintain our bodies, which are so full of sinful activities. Let us also enter into the poisonous water of the Yamuna and compensate for the sinful activities of our lives." End quote. This is an instance of severe shock, where the devotee becomes greatly disappointed. When Krishna left Vrindavan, Subal, his intimate friend, decided to leave also. While leaving, Subal was contemplating that without Krishna, there was no longer any pleasure to be found in Vrindavan. The analogy is given that as the bees go away from a flower that has no honey, so Subal left Vrindavan when he found there was no longer any relishable transcendental pleasure there. In Dana Keli Kamudi, Srimati Radharani addresses one of her friends in this manner, quote, "My dear friend, if I cannot hear of the glorious activities of Krishna, it's better for me to become deaf. And because I am now unable to see him, it would be good for me to be a blind woman." End quote. This is another instance of disappointment due to separation from Krishna. There is a statement in the Harivamsa wherein Satyabhama, one of the queens of Krishna in Dwarka, tells her husband, quote, "My dear Krishna, since I heard Narada glorifying Rukmini before you, I can understand that there is no need of any talking about myself." End quote. This is an instance of disappointment caused by envy. Rukmini and Satyabhama were co-wives, and because Krishna was husband of both, there naturally was some feminine envy between them. So when Satyabhama heard the glories of Rukmini, she was envious of her, and thus became disappointed. In the 10th canto, 51st chapter, 29th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is this statement, quote, "My dear Krishna, I cannot say that it is only other people who are implicated in material existence, because I too am much entangled with the bodily concept of life. I'm always too anxious about my family, home, wife, wealth, land, and kingdom. And because I have been so maddened by this material atmosphere, I am thinking now that my life has been simply spoiled." End quote. This statement is an instance of disappointment caused by lamentation. According to Bharata Muni, this disappointment is inauspicious. But there are other learned scholars who have accepted such disappointment as being in the mood of neutrality and as being a preservative for ecstatic love. Lamentation. When one is unsuccessful in achieving his desired goal of life, when one finds no fulfillment in his present occupation, when one finds himself in reversed conditions, and when one feels guilty, at such time one is said to be in a state of lamentation. In this condition of lamentation, one becomes questioning, thoughtful, tearful, regretful, and heavy-breathed. His bodily color changes, and his mouth becomes dry. One aged devotee of Krishna addressed him in this way, quote, "My dear Krishna, O killer of the demon Aga, my body is now invalid due to old age. I cannot speak very fluently. My voice is faltering, my mind is not strong, and I am often attacked with forgetfulness. But, my dear Lord, you are just like the moonlight. My only real regret is that for want of any taste for your pleasant shining, I did not advance myself in Krishna consciousness." End quote. This statement is an instance of lamentation due to one's being unable to achieve his desired goal. One devotee said, quote, "This night I was dreaming of collecting various flowers from the garden, and I was thinking of making a garland to offer to Krishna. But I'm so unfortunate that all of a sudden my dream was over, and I could not achieve my desired goal." End quote. This statement is an instance of lamentation resulting from non-fulfillment of one's duties. When Nanda Maharaj saw his foster son Krishna embarrassed in the sacrificial arena of Kamsa, he said, quote, "How unfortunate I am that I did not keep my son bolted within a room. Unfortunately, I have brought him to Mathura, and now I see that he's embarrassed by this giant elephant named Kuvalaya. It is as though the moon of Krishna is eclipsed by the shadow of the earth." End quote. This is an instance of lamentation caused by reverse conditions. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, 9th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a statement by Brahma, quote, "My dear Lord, just see my impudence. You are unlimited, the original personality of Godhead, the Supersoul, and you rule over the most perfect illusory energies. Just see my impudence. I wanted to supersede you by my own personal power, and I was very puffed up with this tiny power of mine. Just as a simple spark from a fire cannot do any harm to the fire, so my bewildering potency was completely unsuccessful in thwarting your superior illusory power. Therefore, I find myself to be most insignificant, and I think of myself as a most useless person." End quote. This statement by Brahma is an instance of lamentation caused by committing an offense. Humility. A sense of weakness caused by distress, fearfulness, or offensiveness is called humility. In this condition, one becomes talkative, small in heart, dirty in mind, full of anxiety, and inactive. In the 10th canto, 51st chapter, 39th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the following statement by King Muchakunda. Quote, "My dear Lord, because of my bad deeds in the past, I am everlastingly aggrieved. I'm always suffering from my desires, but still my senses are never satisfied with material enjoyments. Somehow or other I am, by your grace, now in a peaceful condition, because I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, which are always free from all lamentation, fear, and death. O Supreme Protector, O Supreme Soul, O Supreme Controller, kindly give me your protection. I am so much embarrassed." End quote. This statement by Muchakunda is an instance of humility resulting from a severely miserable condition of material existence. When Uttara was attacked by the Brahmastra of Asvatthama, she became afraid of losing her child, Maharaj Parikshit, who was still within the womb. She immediately surrendered to Krishna and said, quote, "My dear Lord, kindly save my child. I do not mind if I myself must be killed by the Brahmastra of Asvatthama." End quote. This is an instance of humility caused by fear. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, 10th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, quote, "O infallible one, I am born in the modes of passion, and therefore I have been falsely proud of being the creator of this material world. My false pride was just like dense darkness, and in this darkness I had become blind. In my blindness, I was considering myself a competitor to you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But, my dear Lord, even though I am accepted as the creator of this universe, I am eternally your servant. Therefore, kindly always be compassionate toward me and excuse me in that way." End quote. This statement by Brahma is another instance of humility resulting from committing an offense. Sometimes there is humility due to shyness. For example, when Krishna stole all the garments of the gopis while they were bathing in the river, all of them begged Krishna not to commit this injustice upon them. The gopis addressed him thus, quote, "My dear Krishna, we know that you are the son of Nanda Maharaj, and that you are the most beloved of all Vrindavan, and you are very much loved by us also. But why are you giving us this trouble? Kindly return our garments. Just see how we are trembling from the severe cold." End quote. This humility was due to their shyness from being naked before Krishna.